What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel where we speak the truth, we're honest, and we give our takes on the Miami Dolphins. It is Thursday, August 20th, 2026, and man, it looks like today it didn't go so well for the Miami Dolphins. I mean, there were some times where they had their moments on defense, but the Giants got the better of them. The Giants couldn't run the ball today, which I thought was very encouraging to hear because they didn't have the Dolphins. Zach Sealer is week to week. Kenneth Grant is week to week, and there was no Jordan Brooks today. So, hearing about that and hearing that the Giants could not run the ball with Cam Scatterboo and the other backs that they have on the team against the Dolphins defense, I found that encouraging. I found that very encouraging today. The Giants' passing game was on point. The Giants' passing game was good. The Dolphins' offense is where it all went south, according to the reports, and I have everything up here on the Sun Sentinel website from David Furones and Chris Perkins. So I'm going to read that to you guys in a little bit. But, I mean, it felt like last week with the Commanders, yes, the Commanders won the practice, but, the Dolphins got some good stuff in there too. There was some good highlights from the Miami Dolphins. And then all the starters on offense, or what I will say was, there was some good stuff. There was some positives. But then all the starters played in the preseason game, and they ended up going down and scoring a touchdown. Today, it felt like a very bad day for the offense. The offensive line was struggling mightily and often against the Giants' defensive line. Now, I will remind y'all, the Giants have one of the best defensive lines in football. So I'm not encouraged. I'm not as to say shocked about that development. The Giants have a really good defensive line. A really good defensive line. So I'm not shocked by it. But the one thing that everybody is going to be talking about coming out of practice today are the fights. And there were a ton of fights, and there were a ton of scuffles in the practice today. There was, as reported, four fights. Jameis Winston was the three that I know. I'm not sure about the fourth one. But the ones that I know was Abdul Carter and Patrick Paul, and that's nothing that Patrick Paul started. Abdul Carter was frustrated. He was upset that he lost a rep to Patrick Paul, so he kind of tried to throw a punch at him, but Patrick Paul was the bigger man, and Patrick Paul walked away. And then the second time, Austin Jackson threw a punch at the Giants defender, and Hafley said in the press conference today how he hates fights, and fighting is not tough. What's tough is talking your shit, getting on it in the next play, and getting back for what went wrong. That's toughness. Fighting is not tough. If you fight, you're out. So there was a punch thrown by Austin Jackson, and Hafley kicked him out of practice. Austin Jackson was kicked out of practice because of throwing a punch. And Caden Wallace played the right tackle the rest of the practice. And then the third one I know was involving Jameis Winston, Rodney Harrison, one of our linebackers, and I saw Zeke Biggers was in the middle of it, or that's what I heard. And then the fourth one, I have no idea. It was after a Jacob Rodriguez interception. But hey, probably the MVP of practice today was Jacob Rodriguez. He had a sack. He had an interception. He's got an NFT. NFTF. Nose for the football. I love that about him, man. So we're going to go over this practice, and then we'll also preview a little bit of the preseason game. It's not really that long of a preview, but Halfley did say again that everybody who is healthy should expect to play on Saturday, and then depending on how, basically, with how practice went today and how the offense played, I expect the offense to be out there on Saturday afternoon against the Giants in the preseason game, and most of the defense too. I don't think Brooks is going to play. I think that's an obvious one, but I think everybody else should, man. I think everybody else should be out there playing on Saturday. So we'll see. We'll see when they're warming up and stuff. We'll know the guys that don't come out in uniform and the guys that do. But all right. We are going to start this off. I'm reading it from the Sun Sentinel, Chris Perkins and David Furones, so shout out to them. They said the Dolphins' offensive line had a hard time in pass protection against the New York Giants in Thursday's joint practice, which was a chippy affair with a few fights breaking out in 11-on-11 drills, particularly the Dolphins' defense against the Giants' offense. This was the last practice that fans could attend. Let's see. Francis Marigoa went to get medical help midway through practice on the non-campus Baptist Health Training Complex medical facility. He was accompanied by medical personnel. That's Giants. Okay, so you guys see it in the thumbnail title that we talked about it a little bit. Right tackle Austin Jackson was ejected from practice for at least a short while after fight, and then he returned later for the final period of 11-on-11. It wasn't named who he threw the punch at. He just threw a punch at somebody, and he was gone. He was ejected, but then came back, I guess. Giants starting D-line got the best of the Dolphins starting O-line in one-on-one drills that featured Giants outside linebacker Abdul Carter swinging at Dolphins left tackle Patrick Paul after Paul defeated him. Carter had an open hand but took a swing. Players gathered after that, but no punches were thrown. Coach Jeff Halfley doesn't like fighting. Okay. Let's get to the action here. There was no 7-on-7 today. During one-on-ones between the Dolphins D-line and the Giants O-line, the Giants seemed to win a majority of the reps. Chop Robinson got around New York right tackle Jermaine Elamanu, which some exceptional bend on one rep. David Ajabu also got around a Giants tackle. Zeke Biggers put together a good pair of reps, went up against interior linemen, immediately getting past the guard with a quick move on one. Chris Bell was wearing a red jersey. He didn't really practice much today. Players not participating in practice: Jordan Brooks, Zach Zeeler, Kenneth Grant, Robert Beal Jr., Cameron Good, Cleenan Ferrell, Quinn Ewers, Juju Brents. What the heck? It's jumping all around on me. Chris Bell and Ben Sims. The Dolphins starting offense versus the Giants starting defense. Giants had edge early, but Dolphins are bouncing back. Brian Burns has stopped on running back Devon Achane on the left side for a loss for 1 yard. Quarterback Malik Willis completes a short pass to DJ Herman in a left flat. Willis to Caleb Douglas over the middle for 12 yards. Very nice. Good pass protection versus good edge rushers. Safety Javon Holland. Welcome back to Miami, Snowman. Miss you. Javon Holland sacks Willis, beating tight end Will Kazmarek. Willis hits wide open receiver Malik Washington on the right sideline for 10 yards. Jacob Rodriguez, the MVP of the practice for the Dolphins, stuffed a pair of run gaps to start team periods. Fellow rookie Kyle Lewis came down from the safety spot to run support. Jackson Dart completed his first pass on a slant to Isaiah Likely, who the Dolphins secondary had a very tough time against today, which doesn't shock me. Against safety Michael Taft. He went back to Likely on a downfield out breaking pattern in between Rodriguez and Taft. Ethan Bonner shed a block from a receiver to square up running back Devin Singletary on a swing pass to the outside. Dart dropped in a beautiful pass to hit wide receiver Calvin Austin over the shoulder with Zane Anderson closely trailing. Quarterback Cam Miller hit Jalen Wright on a short pass left and then hit Terrace Marshall Jr. for about 15 yards on the right side. Later, Ollie Gordon went for about 10 yards left as the Dolphins' number 2 offense gains traction on the Giants' number 2 defense. Willis was sacked by Chauncey. I lost it again. Willis was sacked by Chauncey Goldson from the offense's left side. It's not clear who Goldson defeated, but Giants are applying steady pressure. Achane had a burst to the right for about 10 yards. The Dolphins' O-line is doing they did a much better job in the run blocking than they did in the pass blocking. That's not shocking because that's how it was last year too. They were a much better run blocking team than they were a pass blocking team, which tells me, like again, the Dolphins and Jeff Hafley are going to want to run the shit out of the football this year. Devon Achane better be ready. Patrick Paul had trouble versus Kayvon Thibodeau shortly before Carlos Washington had a nice gain to the right side. Again, the Dolphins' O-line is having trouble versus pass, but doing fine on the run plays. Donovan Edwards with a nice burst up the middle for maybe an 8-yard gain. A more good run blocking by the Dolphins, this time the second-team O-line. A.J. Green was not afraid of contact from Giants running back Cam Skattebo. A strong thud from Green that had Skattebo go to the ground. I like that. I like that a lot. And then running back Willie Gay Jr. popped Eric Gray on a short throw over the middle from Jameis Winston. Linebacker Ronnie Harrison Jr. punched a ball out against Damon Bankston as soon as it got to him for an incompletion along the sideline. Wide receiver A.J. Henning was seen getting medical attention midway through practice for what might have been a left arm hand ailment. Get better soon, man. I hope he's out there on Saturday. He's been having a really good camp. And right now, like, he's having, like, in my mind, hearing things and seeing video clips, like, he's standing out more than the 2 vets that we brung in this offseason. He's standing out more than Jalen Tolbert and especially Tutu Atwell, to the point where I don't even think Tutu Atwell, what's the reason for him making the team? You know what I mean? So, if they carry 6 receivers, I'm cool with it being A.J. Henning over Tutu Atwell. It's just my opinion. Among the Dolphins players getting punt return work are Malik Washington, Jalen Tolbert, Kevin Coleman Jr., Tutu Atwell, and Ollie Gordon. The second set of 11 on 11, Chop Robinson had a tackle at the line of scrimmage on Tyrone Tracy right before pressuring Jackson Dart on an incomplete pass. Dolphins corner Ethan Bonner was beaten in coverage by Giants wide receiver Malachi Fields. He dropped a potential touchdown pass from Dart in the end zone. Bonner isn't taking advantage of Juju Brents' absence to make a move toward the starting job. The same was true for Bonner when fellow cornerback Chris Johnson was briefly sidelined. Matthew Butler lost it again. Matthew Butler, he sacked Jackson Dart up the middle. Butler is taking advantage of the absence of Zach Sealer and Kenneth Grant. Very nice. More depth, hopefully. James Esther left the field with an apparent leg injury. Esther has been struggling in training camp. Giants running back Najee Harris had a 5-yard touchdown run up the middle in one of the few touchdowns today in 11 on 11 drills. The Dolphins offense didn't get a touchdown in the red zone period. Linebacker Jacob Rodriguez was in coverage when Jameis Winston misfired to tight end Theo Johnson in the end zone. Rodriguez continues to battle Terrell Dotson for the starting job, and Rodriguez might have the lead. Should be no question that this guy should be starting week 1. Why wait? Why wait? He's balling out right now, so... Dart hit Malachi Fields on a long completion, perhaps 50 yards, with cornerback Jason Marshall Jr. in coverage. Rodriguez sacked Jackson Dart on a blitz pickup, a blitz up the middle. And then right here, Austin Jackson threw an open-handed punch at a Giants defender, connecting with his face mask. Then a Giants player came over and shoved Jackson to the ground. Players gathered, but it was short-lived. Jackson seemed to get ejected from practice for at least a brief period. He returned later. Offensive tackle Caden Wallace played first-team right tackle. Shortly after the Dolphins defense and Giants offense had a big skimmerish on the other field, it lasted longer than the Dolphins offense versus Giants defense. God, this fucking thing keeps refreshing on me, guys. Okay. Dolphins. It lasted longer than the Dolphins offense versus Giants defense confrontation and featured possibly 3 separate events. Dolphins linebacker Ronnie Harrison Jr. was involved in a disagreement with Giants linebacker J.C. Davis. Dolphins defensive lineman Zeke Biggers was being restrained at one point. Dolphins defensive tackle Keith Cooper Jr. was involved in a scuffle at some extent with quarterback Jameis Winston. After Malik had an earlier pass deflection on the flat, he had another one up the middle, batted at the line of scrimmage from the pocket. Abdul Carter picked up a practice sack as Willis was evading initial pressure from Kayvon Thibodeau. Terrell Dotson left practice and went inside late in the session. He was walking by himself, not with medical personnel, and barefoot while carrying his shoulder pads. Abdul Carter had a sack on Malik Willis in the final period of 11 on 11. Later, Drew Phillips sacked Willis. Cornerback Drew Phillips sacked Malik Willis. A few plays after, that Jackson had a pass deflection on Carter. It could have been flagged for holding, but it wasn't. And that is all that the Sun Sentinel has for the practice today. So, I mean, at the end of the day, man, like, I like the fact that They're getting chippy out there. I know Austin Jackson got kicked out and stuff, but I like the fact that my team is out there showing fight in practice. I think that means something. Um, I think that's very important. And, um, the past Dolphins teams would just walk to the back of the line. They would take it up, and then we would be labeled soft by the national media. So, tons of fights, but I like that fact that we got chippy. Um, Again, I'm not shocked by the struggles of the Dolphins offensive line against the Giants defensive line. The Giants have one of the best defensive lines in all football. And this is you know, returning starters for offensive line outside of Caden Proctor. But it's also a young offensive line. And I'm not trying to say that as an excuse. Aaron Brewer's a vet. Austin Jackson's a vet. But the other guys are pretty young. So I'm still giving them time to gel. The secondary, it's the weakest point of the team. And, hearing them and Jason Marshall Jr., not really taking advantage of guys like Juju being hurt and guys like Chris Johnson being hurt. And he got burned last week. And he got burned again for a 50-yard pass against Malachi Fields. So, secondary is absolutely the weakest part of the team. If I'm John Eric Sullivan and we get to the cuts, three positions that I'm looking for is quarterback for backup role, or competing for the backup role with Quinn Ewers, pass rushers, and corners or safeties. Because, especially the secondary, it's very unencouraging, I would say. But, again, there was some good stuff. I thought, from the reports, Jacob Rodriguez was awesome. And I'd love to hear that. I really do. I think that is fantastic. And I love hearing that. That he's balling out, and he's absolutely running away with the starting linebacker spot next to Jordan Brooks. Now, as far as the game on Saturday goes, I don't know if the Giants are going to play their starters or not. We'll see. As far as the Dolphins are concerned, that's our main worry here. Considering how poorly the offense was in practice today, I expect the entire starting offense to be out there for at least the first drive. I expect the same thing that we got in the Commanders game that we get in this game. I wouldn't be shocked if they get an extra drive just because it's, the second preseason game. Next week, I would expect them not to play. I don't think Achane needs to play next week. I don't think Austin Jackson needs to play next week. But we'll get to that when we get to next week versus the Atlanta Falcons. But for this week, I'm expecting the same thing. I do think that it's going to be the same thing. I think the starters are going to be out there for the Dolphins. I think the starting defense, who's healthy, is going to be out there. So probably Rodriguez and Terrell Dotson if everything is okay with him, or maybe Trey Moore. I'm not exactly too sure, but Chop is another one. The secondary, the entire starting secondary outside of Juju, I expect all those guys to be playing. So, yeah, I will be back with you guys Saturday night to go over preseason game number 2. Again, kickoff will be 4 o'clock on Saturday. It's on the NFL Network. So if you have the NFL Network, you should absolutely be able to watch this game. So, all right. I will see you guys on Saturday. That is the recap of the Giants-Dolphins joint practice today. The Dolphins took the L in practice today. It's just honesty. And it's not a bad thing. That's not shocking. The Giants are a way better team than the Dolphins are. So, all right, guys, I will see you Saturday night to go over the preseason game against the New York Giants. All right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe, and as always, stay classy. And I'm out. Peace.